Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Hey, I'm Kim Holderness.
And I'm Ben Holderness.
We host the Holderness Family Podcast every Tuesday.
You may know us from the silly videos that we make online.
Or a book about marriage called Everybody Fights.
Or as winners of season 33 of The Amazing Race.
Still can't believe that happened. Listen, we do a lot of stuff, but our podcast is our most favorite thing.
Yeah, because every week we get to sit down face to face, talk to each other about marriage, family, mental health, or just anything that we want to know more about.
Sometimes we have expert interviews, sometimes it's just us, but our goal is to bring some joy and laughter into your life every week.
Our other goal is that maybe you will learn something as well.
Right, so search the Holderness Family Podcast and check out our most recent episodes. We have one about staying organized with creators of the Home Edit.
And one about being diagnosed with ADHD as an adult.
We hope you'll join us.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile, the podcast where we walk home from the movies. Today we are going to go see another movie at the Cork Film Festival. So it's the family gala and it's the Irish premiere of Matilda the Musical, or Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical. The film adaptation of the stage adaptation of the book adaptation of Roald Dahl's mind.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to bring our kids, which is exciting, so we're recording this a bit early. And for the record, we've obviously both read the book Matilda as kids, seen the original movie Matilda, and we've both seen the stage show in London.
Yeah, we are well versed.
We're primed for
on
this.
Matilda. I like Matilda.
I like Matilda too. I was never a fan of the American movie as a kid.
We had it on VHS.
I'd need to
My
go
sister
back and watch
really
it again,
enjoyed it.
But I remember being so taken out of it as a kid because they were American, and I couldn't get past it.
I agree, it didn't quite fit. As
But I will watch it
entertaining
again.
as Danny DeVito was as her
Yeah,
father.
I'd like to watch it again now as an adult and see how it holds up. But
Also, that little girl whose name I cannot remember, but she was also in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah.
She was a lovely actress.
she was
so
lovely.
cute.
Yeah, she was great casting.
She had the little lisp.
She was so sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to bring our kids today, which is exciting. And
Was she in Hook as well? Or did I make
think
that up?
She was in like every kids movie that year. You know the way kids get to be in everything, and then they get old and don't get to be in things anymore. Speaking of kid actors, though, the star of this Matilda is an Irish girl. She's called Alicia Weir, I think. And she was cast out of like obviously thousands of auditionees for this, so that's a pretty big deal. And she's going to be at the premiere today, which is cute.
Yeah.
So looking forward to seeing her, and love that an Irish girl got the role.
I'm looking forward to this. We loved that stage musical. The songs written by Tim Minchin, the Australian comedian,
were
very
brilliant.
funny.
Yeah, it was
very
really
clever.
I look forward to hearing them again because I loved them at the time and kind of can't quite remember them.
I
but they
remember
were
there
brilliant.
was my mummy says I'm a miracle.
And our kids are so excited, particularly the 5-year-old Oscar, because we were saying like it's about a girl whose parents are naughty and her teachers are naughty, and they're like, oh my god. And that's when you remember the joy of Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl,
kids love that stuff.
all in
to watch.
in Roald Dahl, like the figures of authority are always the bad guys, which is always kind of dark, actually. Well, I mean, he's very renowned for being very dark and weird.
The figures of authority aren't always the bad guys.
Not always, often.
Yeah.
You know, the twits or the.
They're very extreme anyway, so I think kids love the extremeness of them.
Well, we watched the trailer of for this with our boys, and they could not believe Mrs. Trunchbull grabbing a girl by the hair and swinging her into the bushes. She's like, she's naughty.
Yeah, thrilling stuff.
So,
anyway, I'm excited to go and see it, and we'll be back much later, probably without our kids, because they tend to be very chaotic.
They
try to make them podcast.
they don't want to do it. I don't blame them, because we're like, talk, put this in their face, and now you talk. Right, so we'll see you later.
Bye.
This school is full of rebels. You! What is your name?
Matilda. Matilda Wormwood.
Wormwood, criminals like you need a real lesson.
Hi, we're back. We've seen Matilda the Musical. As promised, our kids are not here. They did, and we did check if they wanted to do a podcast, but they did not.
But it was so sweet because on the train home, Oscar said, I want to talk about the movie. And I said, oh, do you want to do the podcast? He said, no. I said, okay. And then he talked about the movie for like half an hour, though. He
loved it.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Now, the 2-year-old Elliot is too young. In fairness to him, he actually sat through a live action movie, which I think is impressive at his age. But at one point, like, I brought him out to the toilet and he said, why is this movie so weird?
Yeah, he did not. He did not sit still, though, towards the last...
and
about
also,
halfway through, he turned to me and says, Daddy, when is this movie over?
I also think, though, in fairness to him, he's never sat through... Like, he only watches animation. So live action's quite a jump. Now, Oscar, on the other hand, was riveted, talked about it the whole way home, is obsessed by the fact that
and
they
he's
met
5,
the girl.
for reference.
So they met her on the red carpet very briefly. She was so sweet. And he's like, wait, but her name's Alicia, but she's in the movie. What's happening?
And
like,
then-
that's thrilling. That's
then
absolutely thrilling to
It
him.
was really funny to try and explain the concept of an actor, because then afterwards he was saying, well, she has 2 names. Her name is Alicia and Matilda. We were like, well,
so sweet.
kind of.
But yeah, anyway, he loved it and is obsessed with it, and they both keep talking about Miss Trunchbull, and then they both talked about how much they loved Miss Honey. Like, so all the messages still resonate. It was really interesting as an adaptation of a stage play, because the stage play has these really brilliant musical numbers, and to see how they kind of translated that onto film was really interesting. I think, like, overall for me, I loved it. I was really happy. It was a brilliant family day out to go and see it. I think the young actress Alicia, who our kids are obsessed with, is like phenomenal.
Oh,
you know,
she
the
was
way
so good.
you're like, oh yeah, she's obviously going to be good. She's been cast out of thousands of kids, but like, she was a brilliant singer. She was able to act quite dark scenes, quite happy scenes, like dance scenes. Like, she's an incredible child actor, I'll say that. There was some elements of it that didn't work for me, though. They've moved a fair bit away from some of the book points and into more kind of imaginative, kind of magical realism-y bits.
Are you talking about the story that Matilda is telling?
Matilda's kind of telling a story throughout the
library
film.
owner.
And for
So
me,
is that not in the book? I can't quite remember.
I don't think so. And I think for the bits that always stuck out to me in the book when I was younger was like, there was load of interaction with her parents and her dads. That's quite lessened in this.
They do. They feel more sidelined. Yeah,
they're honestly barely in the film.
Yeah.
And then
I agree.
The bit of her learning telekinesis is totally sidelined in this film.
No,
Like like Matilda should be at home practicing.
Yes, okay,
The books flying through the air. Like, none of that's really
I will agree.
happening.
In the book and in the American version in the 90s, she figures that out a lot earlier. Like, I remember her moving pencils and
I just
and,
feel like they left
playing with it
straight
in her
to that,
bedroom.
so they bypass.
It does happen later, yeah.
Like, I take it it's an adaptation of a stage musical. It's a different thing. I still love the overall package, but for me, I think, like, especially watching it with like a 5-year-old who's struggling to understand it, I think all the scenes that were kind of in Matilda's imagination were distracting from the plot. And I know that's intentional because they're trying to show that Matilda is like trying to escape her life.
Yeah, for
But it's difficult
context,
to watch.
for context, we'll explain it. So and there's no spoilers, by the way, until we get to Spoiler Street. But yeah, Matilda is telling a story that she is coming up with. Each day she adds more to the story, and so there's this plot thread where 3 or 4 times she is talking to a librarian, you know, her friend, and telling her this story, and you know, it's a construct, a visual construct which we are very familiar with, me and Cathy, and adults would be as audience members, where someone's telling a story and then you see the story come to life, and then you see her and the librarian sort of as part of the story. So it's a visual imagining of this story that's being verbally told. But
Whereas to a kid, it's like,
to a
what's
5-year-old,
happening?
yeah, I think he was totally thrown with, because his sense of what's real and what's not real is hard to distinguish anyway when he thinks that the girl he met is Matilda.
I also think it kind of downplayed Matilda's like actual living situation, because that was all too fantastical. But that was kind of my only
I don't
quibble
agree.
with it. But back to, before we get into such specific details, what's like your overall feeling about the film?
I absolutely adored it.
Aww.
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I cried
too.
But I cried not only at the bits that I should normally have cried at, but I cried like basically from the very beginning of this movie when her first song, and I think just the oppressive, the sheer fact of this girl living in these conditions where she's like a bit like Harry Potter, you know, is just like unloved and like is finding like sanctuary and escape through books. It's such a beautiful thing that it started to make me cry. Now I think I am particularly fragile today because I'm really hungover, and so I don't think if I'd seen this film under different circumstances,
seeing it with their kids,
it would have had
really
such an
emotional.
I was.
I'm like,
same.
Our like thing is like we want our kids to love cinema so much, and we made such a big deal about it today, and they did love it, and they were so excited, and they were talking about it all weekend, and that just made me like resonate more emotionally with it.
Same, and it was just lovely. It was a lovely setting. We watched it in the Everyman Theatre in Cork City,
and the
so it's an old
numbers,
theatre, and the music was fantastic. So
songs.
I don't know. It was just I was loved it. I mean, as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate musicals more and more. And then now this is one of my favourite genres.
I mean, Tim Minchin's like just like the songs are just phenomenal. Like I know you already referenced like my mummy says I'm a miracle, but the one that they all sing like when I grow up, God, it's gorgeous. And then Miss Honey had her own song.
So Miss Honey's song
amazing.
had me in floods of tears,
yeah.
and because it was just so beautiful. And Lashana Lynch is
brilliant.
Really it's a lovely performance. I mean,
and they have incredible chemistry together, her and Matilda, so that like, you know, they always had like the lovely sweet relationship at the core of the book. And like seeing Matilda and Miss Honey just makes me so happy. I love that our little boy said that their teacher was like Miss Honey. Now, in fairness, our question was: is your teacher like Mrs. Trunchbull or Miss Honey? So they hopefully had only one route to go there. But like they loved her. Matilda and her had incredible chemistry. I also think Emma Thompson, fair play to her, was brilliant as Miss Trunchbull.
Miss Trunchbull is the best role, you know, and it was the best. It's the star role on. In the stage musical, you know, it steals the show, and Emma Thompson just fills those massive, weird iron platform boots perfectly. What I really appreciated about this movie as well was, so Emma Thompson, just fantastic as you'd expect, but the production design of it, like the where this location that they got to fill in for the school, and all the interiors are, you know, made to look like a prison. And it is very effectively
and the chokey
oppressive.
Looks so scary.
Oh, the chokey is so good. And the chokey is just the most Roald Dahl thing ever.
And Matilda is, as well as being all the other great things you said about the little actress playing her, she's also got a really good like feisty nature about her, which really comes to the fore in the school. And also when she sings that song,
naughty.
a little bit naughty, and she starts being naughty, and which of course our kids loved, like that someone's singing about being naughty. So like all that was, you know, I don't know that we need to go to spoiler street on this one. Like, I mean, the only other thing I'm going to say, like the point of difference from like what I remember the book as in the previous film to now is, I felt like there'd been a lot more pranks to get Matilda's dad in the older stuff than
Agreed,
this.
that's downplayed.
Now I think they were trying to be, I think in fairness they were trying to have a bit of a message of like,
hello,
it's probably not really nice
here
to show her playing loads of awful pranks against her parents, and I think they tried to slightly reduce that probably for those reasons. But it took away a bit of the fun that the dad, you know, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but it took a bit of the fun out for me of like that the dad didn't get all those pranks played on him. That's kind of what I was looking forward to, because I thought that would be quite fun.
I mean, it's not the key. Look, the key part of the story that this version hones in on is the school, Trunchbull and Miss Honey, and the sort of relationship of all those things.
And that's where I think that the story that Matilda was telling, how that kind of came together at the end, just didn't really make sense for me.
Oh, really?
Well, it kind of implied that.
Do you want to go into spoilers?
Okay, we'll go to spoilers.
Okay, so spoilers.
Brief spoilers.
Spoilers now for Matilda the Musical. But I will say, before we do that, try and watch this movie. I think it's a fun one for kids.
It's so fun, yeah.
5 and up. It's really fun for grown-ups. It's very funny and charming.
Yeah, it's lovely,
and
bright
lovely.
film.
And it's coming to Netflix, I think.
Well, I think it's in cinemas as well. Netflix logo was up there, but it's in cinemas, so we're slightly confused about what's happening with it.
Go to the cinema. It's a good one.
It's a really good family day out, I'd say. Now, just one spoiler. So there was always a plot, right, that like Miss Trunchbull was actually Miss Honey's aunt, and she stole in her house from her and like potentially killed the dad.
Yeah,
and all that,
Magnus.
right?
I do remember Magnus and the chalkboard.
The chalk.
And Quentin Blake's illustrations always stand out to me.
I always remember that as well.
The chalkboard, yeah.
But like, I don't think by any means was Matilda having vivid prophetic hallucinations about the whole thing.
So you think?
And I think what bothered me at the end is like that. So, okay, so Matilda's psychic.
She's a precog. Yeah.
Like, I just think they added too many layers into it, and
so is that not in it? I really don't remember.
No, that's not in
okay.
it. Like it. I just don't understand why they added that layer in, because I think what it undermined was that storyline, and I totally kind of like the idea of like a sad child who loses themselves in storytelling because it like lifts them out of their current situation. I get all that.
That got to me as well, yeah.
But ultimately, if the film is supposed to be about Matilda being super clever, Matilda having telekinesis, which was the coolest thing when I was a kid that I thought about it, and her relationship with Miss Trunchbull, Miss Honey, why add in this? I would say 40 minutes of the film is filled with something that's not happening in the film, and that is like implying that Matilda's psychic. And I just don't know that they needed to add more. It's a very rich story.
I don't know.
I want to see more Matilda at home with her parents, more Matilda practicing telekinesis, maybe more Matilda just like interacting with the other kids.
Can I drill down into this a little bit? Do you have an issue with the multiple fantasy sort of storytelling?
I was really
circus
bored
stuff?
by them. I was
right.
Really
so
bored
your
by
issue
them.
is with them, not that. So if Matilda, if it had just been a story and hadn't been a prophetic psychic vision,
when
you
it
would have
actually,
been okay with it.
No, I was still bored by them.
So I
Because
actually
they were
loved
cool
those. I
sequences.
really loved all that stuff.
They were cool sequences, and it was an interesting story. But I kept being like, "But what's this got to do with the film I'm watching?"
Well, it's
and
just,
then by virtue of, but then when they linked them together, I was even more confused. So I was like, "But it was such a fantastical story. There's no way that happened, Miss Honey." And also, so Matilda's psychic now, and then that just all kind of wrapped up very quickly, and it was weird. I can't describe it. I found it very strange.
But they perfectly described Matilda. You know, Matilda's brains are coming at her ears and you know squishing. It's just because she's got so much brain. I mean, if she's telekinetic, it's just a hop, skip, and a Charles Xavier School of Gifted Children away from
No, I get that.
also being psychic.
But I think the other point, and again, it's because I was literally watching a 3 or 5 year old's eyes because he was on my lap and he was asking me questions. He didn't even understand that Matilda moved that cup that hit Miss Trunchbull's head.
Well, I will,
because they so unestablished her telekinetic abilities that like he thought
fair.
Miss Trunchbull moved it.
and I mean, and also it is it is an extra leap for a 5-year-old to be like, okay, so what you're seeing now is just Matilda telling a story
that she's in. So, but she's not. It's just a story, and she even says, he was quite confused by this on the train home. He even said, she even says to the librarian, "Oh, don't worry, like it's just a story." So that's what Oscar took. It's just a story, and then later it's like, no, the story's real. That's what I mean.
So I'm like,
last bit was a step too far for me.
It's too much for a child.
It's too much for me. I said, wait, sorry, Miss Honey's mom was an acrobat,
and her dad was an escapologist.
Dynamite striped to her head. And every bone in her body broke.
And the evil stepsister had a contract, and a contract is a contract.
It just was like, it was way beyond. Now, I'm not letting that hold me up in my love for this movie and enjoyment, because I really had it. It just was like, I think they're trying so hard to not make it just the original text. Well, look, and I think sometimes like the original text is quite good. What I'm really pleased they changed from the last movie is the scene where Miss Trunchbull makes Bruce eat the cake is very distressing, and I always hated it. In this and on the stage play, because they turn that into a song.
It's seen as a moment of a revolution as well, because he's successful, right?
Yeah, I think
it's almost like it's almost defiant.
He was always successful though, but there was just that 90s framing of like, ooh, look, this kid's fat and now he's going to eat loads, and it just felt really mean.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like because it's turned into a musical, it took the meanness out of it, and the kid wasn't like. The kid was kind of it was just a different vibe, and I prefer that a take on it. The other thing is I'd have loved to see more of just like in the school, but because there was so many musical numbers, we rarely saw just the kids in the school, and I think this is partially the problem of adapting a stage play back into a film, is like there's probably a bit too many songs in it.
Yeah.
It's a bit overstuffed.
I mean, look, I hear you, and look, I'm sorry this stuff didn't work for you. I took no issue with any of it.
I know, yeah,
Honestly, I thought it was perfect.
It's only because we're talking about it now, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and the
and they're all like, by the way, they're just editorial decisions that you liked and I didn't. They're not actual criticisms of a film. It's just our sensibilities of like what we enjoy. I never tend to enjoy fantastical dream sequences.
Exactly. You don't like.
I'm always like, but what's happening in the film?
But I thought
I don't even want to hear, like, if Dave tries to tell me about his dreams, like, I won't listen. I don't care.
You're much more literal minded, and you want plot, and you don't want sort of visual metaphors or anything like that.
I just don't want dream sequences.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like,
whereas
they always take you out of a movie and make you think, what am I watching?
Well, I felt I don't know, I loved it all, and I felt like I really admired the movie's commitment to these ideas of sort of individual expression, freedom, and and revolution. That's ultimately
I love
what this.
The revolution
This is
stuff,
weirdly this film pairs really well with Andor on Disney Plus.
You're just
kind of doing the same. I'll bring it in anyway, but it's the same thing. And I loved. I think one of my favourite songs in this, from a lyrics point of view, is Miss Trunchbull's big number. About the children are revolting. It's like
Elliot to the toilet. That's the downside of bringing a 2-year-old to the cinema. You have to keep leaving and missing the film.
And I think that's the joy of. I had to take him to. I missed the end as well. He went twice. Now we gave him a big old orange juice, so it's our fault, really. So I think the musical numbers in this are a joy. They're very
amazing,
very clever. There's a lot of wordplay in it,
and I love that bit when Matilda's I Want song, and I can't remember how it goes, was overlaid with When I Grow Up, and like she was singing in sync, and
yes,
like the little kid who ended up
what
on
is that musical thing, and that you bring in three or four recurring numbers and they all overlap.
I love
whatever
it.
the
Which
name
he
for
does
that
really
is.
well.
It's fantastic.
Because we saw the Groundhog Day musical when we lived in London that Tim Minchin had done the music for.
It's so good
as
well.
Very short-lived and bombed, but we had thought that it was brilliant, and the music overlaying in Groundhog Day as the days were overlapping was so cool. I wish that hadn't been cancelled. But yeah, the sequence that When I Grew Up was a sequence that our kids particularly loved, because you see like a kid on a motorbike and like a kid flying a plane, and like that's just all super fun stuff. And the bit at the end that Oscar loved was when the school, like when Miss Honey becomes the headmistress, and then the school turns from this like prison into like just a fun fair.
Yeah.
And
naturally,
of course, like that's what your school
Yeah.
would become.
Yeah.
And that was just thrilling for them, and that's what I love that this film was made with kids in mind, of like, what if you asked a kid like, what could your school turn it into? It would have been that.
Yeah.
And I also love that you could tell that all the young actors are basically just like brought to a fun fair and filmed having the best days of their lives, like. So it just felt like, and even when she was speaking on stage beforehand, the actress was like, I made so many friends, I had the best time. It just like seemed like a lovely experience for all the kids involved.
I think it's a great kids film. It's also a really good adaptation, and it has to be an adaptation of a book and a musical.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it does
tricky. And
both
also
of them
trying
really
to
well.
whoever wrote it, trying to put their own stamp on it. And also there was a lot of adults there without kids. It's not just a kids movie. Like, we all know and love Matilda probably as kids, so totally recommend.
Also, just to come back to, and look, we didn't even talk about Stephen Graham and Andrea Riseborough, but they're obviously
But I think their
great
characters
fun
were
as their
so
kids, as their parents.
But their characters were so undercooked that I barely noticed.
Yeah, they're a little
them in
bit background. But
it was what a waste of Stephen Graham. Like,
another thing I really appreciated though was just back to the set design and all that. Their house was so spot on. This gaudy sort of over the top sort of unclassy sort of. It was like basically if Donald Trump lived in a semi-D 3-bed. That's what it would look like.
And also the really interesting kind of bit that I always remember from the book is like the dad has the hat ripped off and then he's like bald. And where this film did take a different turn is like at the very end, Matilda like uses her, I guess she's now a wizard, her magic abilities to unglue the glue off his hat, and she hands it back to him, and they have this really nice moment. And I was like, actually, as a message for kids, it was really nice that Matilda kind of did that. Like, I think
they found some common ground in the end.
They found common ground, and she
parents,
didn't, I guess, because my kids are watching it, I'm glad she didn't brutalise her parents as much. But the inner child in me is like, go and rip his hat off like you did before, you know.
Yeah.
But like, I think like I cannot believe they cast Stephen Graham, and like I could barely understand him with the false teeth in, and he was in about 4 scenes.
I thought he was having a lot
now
of fun.
the scene where he like threw her into the attic room and stuff like that was properly scary. And this is where the telekinetic stuff really bothered me, because basically the first proper instance we see of it with her is he throws her into the room. There's like a full waste paper bin. Then she goes into one of her like mad dream sequences, and then when she comes out of it, the bin's all crushed. And I'm like, that is not, like, no one watching that who doesn't already know she's telekinetic and isn't like an adult would understand that she crushed that while she was in this fever dream. Do you know what I mean? Like, show me Matilda learning how to do it.
Such an issue with the dreams.
Such an issue.
But look,
show me Matilda moving a pencil in the air.
I will take your point that the film didn't do enough to bring its younger audiences on some of the expositional storytelling.
It's almost like they'd assume that they knew the story already, but they won't have.
I'll agree with you there. But personally, I thought the sequence you're describing, where I was very affected by her being thrown into the room and then imagining a father figure who would rescue her.
I know.
In that moment,
I was
that
bawling.
Made me cry as well.
Yeah.
And then weaving the reality of what she'd done into the story. It's all very clever and effective.
Do you know why I'm being pedantic?
Why?
I'm like all these people on the internet who's like, who
that's
get
not
really
how it was in the book.
Yeah, that's what you can't help it when you've read a book too much.
I know.
And you that's all it is. I'm just being pedantic. If I'd never seen that or read that, I wouldn't have any of these issues.
Do you know you should actually go online and let all the actors know personally that they got it wrong and they've ruined your childhood?
I should, yeah.
I think that's only right.
Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. We hope you get to see the film and enjoy it. And if you haven't already done so, head over to our Patreon, where we do loads of retro movie reviews. We're watching Hook. We're watching Hook.
Another classic kids film.
We're watching Love is Blind. We've done some spoilerific episodes on Love is Blind season 3. Dave's doing an episode
live stream
on
of Andor will or will not have happened based on when this is coming out. It probably is already up.
And we're watching loads of other things, including like White Lotus and all that good stuff on TV. So come and find us there. Come find us on Letterboxd at the Cinemile.
Yeah.
Instagram
and on Twitter if
at the Cinemile,
that's still there,
and Twitter at the Cinemile,
and the Cinemile at gmail.com if you'd like to send us an email and say hello.
See you there.
Bye.
See if that child is still alive.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What do you do when no one else is watching? What do you do that makes you happy for no reason at all? What are you obsessed with? I'm Leslie Arfin, and I'm a writer, but I'm also a dancer, a painter, a vapor, a dollhouse enthusiast, and basically just an overall hobbyist. My podcast, Filling the Void, is all about what other people are fanatically into. We talk about hobbies, even if you don't have one.
Listen to Filling the Void on Tuesdays on the Arios Network and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.